Okay, cool. All right, so welcome everyone to Plugins and GPTs in ChatGPT, the Gen AI Marketplace Examined. This is spring 2024. My name is Greg Bem, and I'm one of the faculty librarians here. And this should be a pretty casual conversation today. We're going to be going through a slideshow and then also looking directly at ChatGPT. And since the group here today is pretty small, maybe we'll go on tangents. Maybe we will explore off the format of the presentation. We'll see what happens. But I do have a few slides to get through first. So this session is being recorded. It will be stored online in the LibGuide that is available through the SCC library website. Keep that in mind as you contribute to today's presentation. Today's outcomes, we're going to review GenAI definitions, explore GPTs in ChatGPT+, test functionality of GPTs based on student interest and also employee interest, as the case may be, discuss potential GPTs and impact on learning. And this will be primarily just demonstration and lecture, but again, because of this group size and also the fact that I've never done this particular presentation before, I'm hoping it will be exploratory and conversational. So consider this an exploration of ChatGPT. There's no right and wrong today. We're just going to be taking a look, seeing what's what, and really thinking about what the concept of the future marketplace is. We're going to focus on using ChatGPT in ways that are relevant to you. There are a lot of ways we can use these tools, but I want to make sure that you feel like you're getting the most out of this as the live audience. And for those of you that are watching online, I invite you to reach out to me if you want to connect down the road. So our outline for the presentation today is we'll cover some definitions, do some demonstrations, and that will hopefully lead to explorations. So let's start with a very simple definition of what GenAI is. This is the same definition I use on my Intro to GenAI workshop slides. And this is a nice one, fairly simple from IBM. Generative AI refers to deep learning models that can generate high quality text, images, and other content based on the data they were trained on. We're not going to go too much further with the definition and how that works, mostly because of time and also because that's covered in the intro workshop. And the recordings for that workshop are online. But we will talk a little bit more about LLMs because we're going to be focused on one LLM today. An LLM is a large language model. So this is how GenAI works. And LLMs are a category, again, according to IBM, category of foundation models based on immense amounts of data, making them capable of understanding and generating natural language and other types of content to perform a wide range of tasks. So LLM is really the technology that is behind generative AI, and Gen AI almost is kind of like the surface label of this technology. And one example of an LLM is a generative pre-trained transformer, or otherwise known as GPT. And I'm assuming you've heard of ChatGPT before. And yes, I'm seeing some nodding online. Okay. Yeah, so ChatGPT is chatting with this LLM, this large language model. That's essentially what the product is doing. We're going to be talking about GPTs today. Now, GPTs are not a bunch of LLMs. They're all rooted in that single GPT LLM, but this is the proprietary term or product name for the different custom versions of ChatGPT that users can tailor for specific tasks or topics by combining instructions, knowledge, and capabilities. They can be as simple or as complex as needed, addressing anything from language learning to technical support. And that's OpenAI's definition. OpenAI is the corporation that owns and it creates products like ChatGPT and DALL-E and Sora and a bunch of generative AI tools and technologies. So we can think of GPTs as those customizations of ChatGPT. And we're going to see what that looks like in a minute. Who can create GPTs? So this company created ChatGPT, but the customization interface is available to everyone that subscribes to a paid version of ChatGPT. According to OpenAI, Plus, team, and enterprise users can create GPTs through the GPT Builder. Users can discover useful and fun GPTs from creators in the GPT Store, where we spotlight the most useful and delightful GPTs we come across in categories like productivity, education, and lifestyle. Free tier users can discover and use GPTs in our GPT Store with message limits. When I do the demonstration here later in this presentation, we will be seeing what it looks like through the Plus interface because I have a subscription. But even if you don't have the Plus interface, you may have some access to the GPTs as it says here in the description. I want to highlight before we move forward that OpenAI uses this term creators. And when we're thinking about the term marketplace, we're going to go into this a little bit further too, we need to really consider who is contributing to that marketplace. Who are the creators? And why would one person be a creator versus another person? Or how can we all be creators? So let's take a little bit of a closer look at that. So the GPT marketplace, similar to any type of marketplace, real or imagined, is a really amazing space where individuals and groups are putting their creative energies and efforts into one central location, which is through the ChatGPT interface, to showcase their work and showcase the tools that they're building. And ideally, they're providing tools, they're contributing to this marketplace in a way that is received by the public or by the people that are using these technologies. And so there are a lot of different types of contributions, and we'll see this. We'll see that there are categories of use. Actually, in the last slide, OpenAI describes that as the case. There are categories. In terms of the GPT marketplace, there are featured tools and there are popular tools. Featured GPTs, popular. And it's similar to going into an app store on your phone, or maybe on Steam if you're a gamer, or maybe you go into like the Microsoft Windows store on occasion. There are many, many, many tools that are available. At this point, there are countless. A few months ago, it was evolving slowly and there were only a handful, but really the floodgates have opened and it seems like everybody is contributing to this marketplace. So it's important to realize that it's now at a point where we are kind of in this kind of like overflow and fluid state where we don't really know what we're going to see anytime we go into the interface. And that's really awesome in the literal sense. It's awe-inducing. There's so much to be inspired by and excited about, but it can also be overwhelming. So just like any of those other marketplaces I described earlier, it's one thing we might consider is how often we are going into the marketplace to take a look and to be aware of what people are doing, what people are creating. And again, as individuals, if we want to contribute, what that might look like for us. One thing though, GPTs can also be private. They can also be personal. So you don't need to create a GPT, a customized version of ChatGPT for this marketplace. It does not need to be put out there in the world. This technology also exists to benefit you as an individual. And I think that's really important because there's, in my mind, a huge weight, cultural weight, to contributing something as a creator, however that looks, in a place where you might be reviewed or rated or judged, or your products may be used and reviewed and rated and judged. And so if you want to dip your toes in, you can actually create a GPT and just use it for yourself or experiment with it. Before we go forward, does anyone have any questions? Feel free, again, use the chat or unmute.
So far, so
Okay.
good.
Great.
Yeah, thanks.
None here.
Awesome. Thank you both. So let's dive in. I love this this dolly image. It's kind of a favorite of mine. So again, I'm going to be using this and demonstrating how it all looks and works, but I want you to interrupt me. I want you to ask questions, and I want you to also guide me. So I may ask you for some help in exploring as we go forward. But before we dive in, I just want to reiterate the interface of ChatGPT. So after you log into ChatGPT, this is what you will see. Again, I have the Plus subscription, so it might look a little bit different, but we're going to go through all of these different sections, just so that we're a little bit oriented before we look at the GPT specifically. So the LLM version, the model version, is listed here under this dropdown. Recently, ChatGPT 4.0 was released. That's a whole nother presentation. We're not going to cover what 4.0 is doing. It's a rabbit hole, but that exists, and there's 4 and there's 3.5. You have your main interface here for the actual chats, and so there's a few preset prompts that are listed. You can use the message GPT bar here to enter in your prompt and start a conversation. The paperclip icon next to that allows you to upload documents from your computer, or you can connect to either Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive and sync ChatGPT with your cloud, the files in your cloud. So you can have it work with documents that you created. Of course, always recognize privacy issues when you're doing that. The upper right icon here, my little bunny icon, that's my account. You have your information on your plan, my GPTs, which we'll come back to, customize ChatGPT, settings, and log out. And then on the left, we've got the apps that we've used, including ChatGPT, which is the core interface, and DALL-E, which is available. It's the image generator from OpenAI, and that's available when you're using a Plus subscription. And then also a couple GPTs that I've experimented with so far. I created one called Froggy Friend. We may look at that. It's kind of weird and ridiculous. And then a generative text to video GPT that I experimented with from the marketplace. And then, of course, all of the chat history will be available on the left. And then if you wanted to create a new chat, you could do that with this icon. And if you wanted to close the sidebar, you could do that with that icon, the multi-screen icon in the upper left. So that is our interface. Let's take a look at what the GPTs page looks like. So if I click on Explore GPTs, this is it. And this is only a few months old. This whole interface came out this year. And as I was describing in the intro slides, this is a marketplace. So this could always be changing. And I want to really highlight that. I want to reiterate that. So if you come into this tomorrow, or if you're watching online in the future, in a future moment, this very well may have changed since this recording. So keep that in mind. Also, think about it similarly to the other app stores in your life and how they are designed, and they're always changing. Every time I add a new app from Google Play for my Android phone, it seems like I have to relearn the interface. But the whole goal of this screen here is to connect you with the GPTs, the customizations, and ideally you'll find one you want to use. And then once you have started using it, it will show up on the left-hand sidebar. So let's take a look at the layout. We've got a search bar here, so we can search for GPTs if we know a keyword or two or a specific product name that we're looking for. And then we have the categories. So I already mentioned that there are categories in the design of this marketplace. It starts with top picks, but then it has basically categories by function. So writing, productivity, research and analysis, education, lifestyle, and programming. So that would be computer programming. Featured, these are curated. So that means someone at OpenAI thinks that these are awesome, thinks that these are interesting or powerful or good, useful, etc. Not a lot of information on why these were chosen at this point, but we have 4. We have an Adobe GPT, a tutor GPT that was created by Khan Academy, which is a well-liked kind of authoritative education organization, whimsical diagrams, and Code Pilot. And then we have a trending section. So trending section, most popular GPTs by our community. I mentioned the word creators was used earlier in this description. We have community. So how the marketplace is being defined at this point is really interesting to consider. I didn't mention this in the intro, but all of these GPTs are free. So that's another thing to think about. Right now, they're free. They may connect to third-party tools that are not free, but when you're using them through ChatGPT, they are free. There may be limitations, as I mentioned earlier. If you are using a free account, you may have a limitation on how much you can use for these, and you won't be able to create your own. But otherwise, just having access to them does not cost anything extra if you have a Plus subscription or if you have a free subscription. And yes, I see a hand raised. You're muted.
Yeah, you just answered my question. You're needing a Plus subscription. So do you think at some point in the future there might be some sort of educational access or discount for faculty for a Plus subscription? Do you know?
I can't speak for what the school at large wants to do, and I can't speak for what OpenAI wants to do, but I will say 2 things in response to that. I was pretty easily able to get a Plus subscription through a project that I'm doing for the college through the Teaching and Learning Center. And my dean is going to be renewing the subscription when that project ends. So I will have access. However, I'm switching over to a team account because I want to promote access to other employees at the college. So that's one thing. I would say right now, it might be available to you through your department or division. In terms of OpenAI and what they may want to do, they have certain partnerships with educational organizations already. I believe it's Arizona State University in Tucson that is partnering with them, and they have an institution-wide subscription. So every email account through that institution, I believe, has access. I imagine that costs a lot of money and maybe more money than our college would be able to afford. However, if they are centering and working in the education domain or education sector, then maybe down the road they'll have something like that. Maybe a light version or an education version that is more accessible than the Plus subscription is right now to most folks.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, appreciate that.
So trending, this means that these apps are being used by the quote unquote community, by users. And what that actually means, like how many users per app is, or per GPT is not really said. It's not determined, but we can just look at these briefly. There's an image generator, Write for Me, Scholar GPT, Canva, and some of you may be familiar with that. That's like a browser-based version of Photoshop that does a lot of really nice design. And that I recommend taking a look at outside of ChatGPT just because it's a great site. Consensus, which looks like it's about research, and Logo Creator, which I actually did experiment with creating an ice cream logo design previously. One thing I do want to mention, and especially for employees in the room or watching the recording, is that there is an interesting dynamic with how this is working, because it doesn't necessarily warn any people about ethical use or problematic use of these tools. And some of these tools might borderline on academic misconduct or misuse. I don't know. I haven't looked at them all. But again, like culturally and psychologically as well, how this company, OpenAI, is designing these things, there may be or may not be foresight and oversight into what types of tools are being created, and if ethical or not so ethical tools and practices are being promoted. If there was a tool that said, write a paper for me automatically in 5 seconds, and suddenly that was the most popular tool, that could potentially get to the #1 spot. And we as educators might loathe that tool, but we would have nothing to do. We would have no way to impact how that shows up in our culture. So we need to be ready for that type of thing to happen in the marketplace. We can continue to see more and more. It looks like they showed 12 of the most popular GPTs here. If we scroll down, we see by ChatGPT. These are created by the ChatGPT team. So now we have a category that is somewhat authoritative in a sense, in that the company that is responsible for this entire interface has created some interesting GPTs. But again, we don't know who's creating them. We don't know what their motivations are. We would need to look at each and every one of these to learn more about how each of and every one of them works. But I think this is a nice opportunity to show the diversity of the types of GPTs that exist. We've got a data analyst tool. We've got a creative writing coach. So a coach rather than just some tool that's writing for you. A plant care assistant, a way to turn images into coloring book pages, a web browser. So this can help look on the web and gather information through an LLM. So through the process of synthesizing data. An explanation of board or card games to players of any age. So some of these actually look kind of, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, they look kind of cool, and they're not necessarily controversial. And they also are showing the creativity and the scope and scale of what this marketplace can support, what the GPT platform can support. Writing, so again, I'm just going to look at the categories here. Writing, productivity, so Excel, PDF, slide maker, research and analysis. So again, there are some organizations that are here, like Wolfram Alpha is a really famous data platform that really does advanced computation, and they have a GPT in here. Education, so again, like tools to help learn, some math, tutor, a very generic one, that fastest way to learn anything. I'd be curious to see what that does. And some of these are being created by individuals, and some of these are being created by organizations. Keep that in mind. Lifestyle, astrology birth chart, deep game, so LLM gaming, GenAI gaming is really ramping up, and it's like role playing where you can essentially ask the LLM to do whatever you want and be whatever you want, and have quests and have missions and explore stories with other characters. Fitness, workout and diet coach, travel guide, song maker, programming. So I know at least one person in the room might find this interesting. So we've got, Code Copilot. That's helping you, I guess, learn how to code smarter and build faster rather than just automatically creating. This is on Python, Code Wizard, a website-based app here, or GPT. Code Guru reviews code, and then Coding Assistant. And so, yeah, I'm going to pause again and ask folks, what do you think about all of this so far? How the marketplace, as I've come to call it, is set up, and what we're seeing here on this screen. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating how you think like back in the day when Apple opened up their app store. Before that, it was all just kind of web-based tools, but now when they opened up their app store, it just exploded a whole new marketplace of worldwide developers to create apps for mobile devices. And I see a similar trend here where, wow, it's a marketplace, it's getting off the ground, but it's already there's so much available. And that was largely a reason why I showed up today is to see what is going on in there because I don't have a Plus account yet, but I've seen and heard about it, but it's really cool to see it and I'm like, wow, the potential here seems to be pretty big.
Yeah, and this was something I should have mentioned earlier. Right now, all of these apps are being, made available through this interface and this platform. If we use the analogy of the App Store for our phones, what do we see there? We see products that are commodified that people are building and selling. And also, the other layer, we see products that people are giving away for free that are ad supported. So they're also making money through ads. And I don't think it takes a very huge imagination to imagine how many steps down the road it will be before we get this to that, before this becomes more widely available and also starts bringing in a lot of money for a lot of people and organizations. And then, the pros and the cons of that dynamic. Okay, so let's take a look at one. I want to just put out a call. Which one looked interesting? We'll just click on one and kind of go with the flow. If any of them. Otherwise, I can choose. I'll scroll down if one pops out.
I have a quick question. Do you
Yeah, go
know
for
if
it.
there's much like, obviously people can use this to code and to write papers and do all these things. Is there anything from the educational side that can help you to figure out if something is being, like if students are using AI yet or?
Yeah, that's something that comes up a lot. We call them GenAI detectors or AI detectors, and that's a very big conversation. The reality is that there are many false positives with many of the detectors, and some of the big organizations have detectors like Turnitin and those types of plagiarism organizations. So they work to some degree with some of the LLMs. The other reality is that these tools are becoming so sophisticated where, like I showed with the beginning of this demonstration, I'll just click back on ChatGPT, that you can upload your own files into this and then have it essentially respond based on those files. So you could upload a book and ask it to write like the text in that book. So I could upload, a famous novel and just have it use the tone and language of that novel and then do all of its generation with that language as the model that it's trained on. Or you could upload your email or your other papers and have it emulate and reflect that writing. And the reality is, will the detectors know to look at all of those variations on generated content? And I think the answer is it's impossible. There's so many variations. It might be able to look at trends and some of the structural components of how the Gen AI tools work. But then there's also a reality that the user could generate something and then edit it, modify it. They can go back through. It doesn't. No one is saying this tool is not telling you you can't edit it after it's generated something. And so then we end up seeing a hybrid of generated and original writing. The same way using any tool is going to be a hybrid. And so this goes back to the conversation that comes up many times with educators and professors is how do we accommodate for that? How do we allow certain levels of usage of the tool if it's helping our students in some way? Do we even know they're using it? And how do we know they're using it? And are we talking with them about it? So I would be happy to have a bigger conversation on that, Crystal, down the road. But that is a really important question to ask. And there is no like one button click detector to see if what's been generated is AI generated.
That makes sense. I do have one more question, just based on uploading stuff. Does ChatGPT, like anything you upload, does it learn stuff based on that, or does it keep it someplace, or anything like that you know of?
They do not disclose, the OpenAI does not disclose what they do with all of the data. And so as a librarian and advocate for privacy and security, I would advise you to assume that they're using all of it in some way, shape, or form. That means that anything that's sensitive probably would not be a great idea to add. And anything that's not sensitive but could be personal may be problematic to add. The same goes for any of the chats. We don't know. I'm logged in with a professional, but a professional account, but an account that has my name on it. And so all of these chats may somehow connect to my name. So in terms of my digital footprint and this being connected to me, I just assume that they are going to know that all of these chats I've had are connected to my name. The other thing is last summer, about a year ago, ChatGPT was hacked, and the hackers may have taken all of the chats from ChatGPT and done something with them. It wasn't really resolved. I didn't see how much information was taken or if they even knew. But that's another thing. Whenever we're using a tool like this, a tool that is connected, that is online, there may be some vulnerabilities. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Tread lightly and choose what type of information you're using in these tools with some degree of intention. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so since no one threw out an idea, I'm going to do the plant assistant because I love plants, and I'm also, it's like 50-50 for me. Sometimes my plants will live for years, and sometimes they'll die within a month. So if I click on Planty, and this was a ChatGPT one, says, I'm Planty, your fun and friendly plant care assistant. Ask me how to best take care of your plants. And I can see the description of this GPT. It gives some nice conversation starters. Can you help me choose plants for low light? Why are my tomato plants not fruiting? And then it also has capabilities. Browsing, which I'm assuming means browsing the web, and it can create images through DALL-E. So it's connected to two additional types of technology. It has not been rated enough yet. So apparently there is a rating system in the GPTs that will help create some kind of additional metric for reviewing these. So, and then it has a section so I can see more by ChatGPT. So this is similar to the App Store. If you downloaded a game on the App Store like Pokemon Go, if you looked at the page for Pokemon Go in the App Store, it would tell you other apps by the creators that created Pokemon Go. So they're kind of like copying a lot of what already exists, not reinventing the wheel. But if I click Start Chat, So it hasn't added it quite yet to the left because I actually have to start my chat for it to do that. But again, we've got the description, we've got some basics here. And I can message Planty with whatever I want to ask. So let's say this, my succulents don't survive more than a month. Help, what am I doing wrong? So, oh no, succulents are usually pretty low maintenance, but they can be a bit picky about their environment. Let's troubleshoot together and get your succulents thriving. So it's generating the same way ChatGPT generates, okay? And you might even notice if you've used ChatGPT, even the free version, that a lot of this looks kind of similar in terms of the formatting. It gives headers, it gives bolded text, it provides a numeric or bulleted list, and it has multiple sections as it's going forward. And then it kind of like has a nice little ending here. And then it has this nice happy gardening. So I want to point out that the tone is a little bit different with Planty. When we got Planty going, we have an icon that has a fun looking plant. The name of this GPT is called Planty, so it's kind of got like a cute sensibility to it. And then the tone is by default a little bit charming, a little bit casual, and also it's helpful. So we don't know what the customizations are for this GPT, but in a few minutes, we're going to create a GPT and we can actually tell in the instructions, in the customization, we can describe how we want the GPT to work. And how it can talk and what it can be like as it's providing its responses. So it said that this had access to DALL-E. So let's see if it can create an image of a healthy succulent. And let's see what it does. Okay, so this is what it looks like when DALL-E is generating an image. So it's automatically just creating an image of a healthy succulent. Voila. And again, the tone. Here's a lovely image. And also it even threw in an emoji at the end. And then it also mentioned that this GPT has the ability to do browsing. So I can actually ask it what browsing means, but instead I'm going to say, can you provide some websites that can show me more? And let's see if it does that. So it's searching the best websites. It searched 6 sites and it's providing me with those sites. And it gave me a cactus. That's kind of cool. All right. So, and then, these sites are ideally real. Let's take a look. They're not hallucinations. Bloomscape. I mean, I don't know how good these sites are. I would have to look a little bit deeper, but it is providing me with, they look like they're pretty popular sites. They're all .coms. They all kind of look like blogs or, kind of popular guides. But now I have some resources that I can look into. And I could keep going forward and using Planty as my plant expert, so to speak. What do you all think about this this particular GPT and how it's helped me with my succulent issue? Any thoughts?
I think it's kind of cool that they get really specific with the different GPTs. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, the specificity. Yeah, one thing I will say is that, go ahead. I saw you unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's cool to get the different types of responses, whether it be an outline or an image or links. I mean, just the different ways to learn you know, so I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that it is really interesting. One thing to note is that I think this Planty could have just been its own chat. I could have done this with ChatGPT.
Mhm.
And at this point, you know, I'm able to also, like, GPT has the browsing built in. So this particular GPT doesn't seem particularly extraordinary, but at the same time, it has a name, it has a logo, and it has intentionality around it. So from a user perspective, if I open a new chat, this is everything. This is like going to Google and being like, what do I search for? But these GPTs, going back to the comment on specificity, these are offering guided ways to use the tools and to have that structure in place already so that I know that I'm kind of being carried along and I can stay focused. And so I think there are, while it's not extraordinary, there is an extraordinary quality to supporting users who might otherwise find the open-endedness of the LLMs, the Gen AI interfaces, to be a little bit too much. Okay, in the last 5 minutes, let me show you the Froggy Friend real quick. I created this. I am not Angela, but my account is through Angela. I created this in like 5 minutes, and a friendly frog character responding with playful frog-like behavior. So when I created this GPT, I was just looking to do something silly in a very short period of time. But I created a character, a frog, and I wanted this character to essentially respond to questions about the Froggy Friend. Like the same way that right now there are Gen AI character apps that can role play characters in popular culture or history. This is kind of the same thing. So, what's your favorite insect to eat? Let's just click on that one. And so, see, it has the fun little ribbit. Oh, I just love munching on crunchy, juicy flies. Yum, yum. They're so tasty when they buzz around the pond. Hop, snap, gulp, delicious, croak, croak. So that's an example of how it might respond. Let's take a look at what it looks like. Let's look at about. That doesn't have anything actually special in it. Let's look at Edit GPT. So this is when we create our own GPT, this is what it looks like. The screen offers on the left the ability to test and configure, and then on the right is the preview. If I click on configure, this is what it looks like on the back end, so to speak. We give it a name, we give it a description, we give it the instructions. So we have a few minutes left. I will read these just so we see how it actually looks. This GPT is a frog character named Froggy Friend. Froggy Friend responds as if it were a frog in every interaction, focusing on activities and behaviors typical of frogs. It uses simple, playful language and incorporates frog-like sounds and behaviors in its responses. Froggy Friend avoids any complex or human-like reasoning and sticks to a frog's perspective. It may occasionally reference its environment, like lily pads, ponds, and insects. Froggy Friend is friendly and eager to engage with users, always maintaining a lighthearted and whimsical tone, focusing on things frogs do on a daily basis. Frog sounds should be emphasized and non-frog sounds should be avoided. Froggy Friend communicates in a playful manner. So this is the instructions. This is telling the LLM GPT to how to act when it interacts with the prompts. And in fact, when I wrote all of this out, I used language that I felt familiar with. I think I wrote that out in like 2 or 3 minutes. And then it actually automatically generated these to go along with the instructions. And I can add other ones or edit these. The other cool thing about configuration, knowledge. So I mentioned uploading files to instruct or inform. If I had, let's say, a children's book on frogs, and I had a frog character that I really liked, like Frog and Toad or something, I could add that to this GPT, and it would be informed by that book. And so it might use some of the images or the tone and language or the characters to inform it. Now, that would probably be a copyright violation to upload a digital copy of a children's book that wasn't mine. But let's say it was mine, or let's say it was a really old book in the public domain. Then I could do that without any repercussions. You can also add connections to other tools, and you can also connect it to APIs. And if you're familiar with APIs, that means I can connect this tool to other websites and tools. So let's say there was a website that was monitoring frogs out there in the world, like using live data or something, and had like a frog database. It's fictional. I have no idea if that exists, but let's say it did exist. I could potentially connect it to this tool, and it would then be able to access that data and incorporate it into its responses, which is just super, super cool and can offer a ton of opportunities. The other two things to note is that this GPT is private, so you're not going to find this in the marketplace currently, though maybe I'll open it up someday. Maybe charge people $5 for it or something. Just kidding. And it says if it's live or not. So you can always turn them off. And then real quick, just to show you where that lives, if you do have a Plus account, you can go to My GPTs. Is it going to go to My GPTs? No, it's not going to My GPTs. I don't know why. Maybe because I only have one. But it is still listed on the left here as one of my GPTs. All right, last minute questions. We are at time. Any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, that was great. I really appreciate that. I was really anticipating seeing what that looked like, and you showed me everything that I was looking for. So yeah, I don't know.
Great.
I thought that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to just remind folks that the recording will be shared after this, and after tomorrow. Tomorrow is the second one of these GPT workshops, same content. After that one, I'm going to be sending out a follow-up survey to everybody that attended or registered. And so take a look out for that, because I ask about what you want to see in future workshops. Probably won't do any this summer, but definitely will do more in the fall. I'm hoping to start examining some of the GenAI tools more in depth, not just ChatGPT, but some of the other really cool ones that exist out there that people are using for research and for doing really cool work. So I want to ask what you want to learn and what you want to take a look at down the road and how this has been going. So stay tuned for that. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks.